Hi. Can you tell me a little bit about your understanding of the stigma towards mental illness and what you think it is?
Um, I understand that it's not looked at as accurate as it is. Like, people downplay it and don't think it's like as real as a physical disorder, which they're both equivalent. It's just like one you can see more so than the other. Um, like, I know people with depression, like people who don't really understand it, just make the comment that like, oh, you can just feel better, like just get yourself out of it, whereas like they physically can't. And then also people use it in like the incorrect context, like they'll say you're being so bipolar when really they just changed their mind about something and like they don't know the correct terms.
Great, thank you. Do you believe that there is still a stigma attached to mental health, like present day right now?
I think it's getting better in that like people are forcing the awareness in that people who have mental illnesses are coming out more so, but like it's not completely fixed. Like, people still have mental illnesses and aren't saying anything about it. People still aren't educated enough to understand um, what it truly means to be depressed or bipolar or have anxiety or any of that.
Great. Would you ever seek out services if you thought that you were dealing with a mental health issue?
Yes, I just feel like it's hard because I'm not in that position, that it would probably take time for me to admit that I would need help, but from like the perspective I am right now, I would definitely say yes.
And what messages do you think society assigned to people battling with mental health issues?
Sorry, what messages?
Yeah. What messages? Like, what do you think that society, I don't know.
I feel like there's two sides. Like, there's still the people who don't really view mental illness as like a legitimate thing, and then there's the people who, mostly the people who have it and who voice out about it, are the people who support it and like find ways to help them. And yeah.
Hi, my name is Kavana Henry. I'm a freshman, and Desiree's gonna ask me some questions.
What do you think of the stigma towards mental illness?
I think the stigma towards mental illness is like a tragedy in our society because people view it as like an illness rather than a problem, and it's more like compared to like a crime that you have a mental illness rather than people want to treat you, they want to cast you aside in society and think you're an outsider rather than helping you. And it should be serious as someone getting a concussion or breaking a leg, but it's not. And people usually want to like tell you you should get over it rather than solving the problem.
Do you think there is a stigma in mental illness?
There definitely is a stigma in society. People more think if you have mental illness, then you're weak, and then that weakness is that you don't know how to like get through things and like power through things and pull up your bootstraps and buckle down and deal with something rather than like actually saying that this is a mental illness and you should address the problem and trying to treat the problem like we treat illnesses like a heart disease or diabetes or something that is serious. We should address just like that.
Would you receive, if ever, any help or services if you thought you were dealing with a mental health issue?
I would definitely receive services like counseling and therapy, even if I don't have a mental illness. I think like venting or just going to a counselor and addressing your problems, even though they're not a mental illness. I think that could help anyone in society. Like, I feel like if you just go with like you have a major life situation, you should just go to a counselor or someone to help you because it's like an unbiased opinion and there's trained professionals to help you with that.
What message or messages does society assign to people dealing with mental health issues?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, is there a message at all that society in general gives out?
Society gives out the dream that like people with mental illness can't speak up. If you're like in a place of high power or you're in a working and you're in your job, they don't want you to speak up. Like, you don't get time off for having depression. You don't get time off for like having anxiety attack. You don't get time off for like being OCD. And like just like pregnancy, you get time off, but it's like not like it's not as like even with pregnancy you get time off, but it's not a lot of time. And with illness, you have off days and sick days, but there's no mental illness. And like mothers with post-traumatic stress disorder, they go through that, and there's been a lot of like laws and legislation backing them to like have have a leave of absence from their job. So yeah,
Thank you, Kavana.
you're welcome.
What do you think of a stigma towards mental health illnesses?
I think that there's many different stigmas towards it. My one would be that it's an important issue.
Do you think there is still a stigma attached to mental health?
Yes, I would say that people generally look at it as a problem that isn't very serious and that doesn't require as much focus as a physical problem would be.
Would you ever receive services if you thought that you were dealing with a mental health issue?
Yes, when I was younger, I did see a therapist and it helped me get through some problems that I had, but I've recently been okay, so.
What messages does society assign to people battling with mental health issues?
Society doesn't really focus on it as it should be focused on. They focus on it as a generalized issue instead of a serious issue, so they don't put enough attention to it.
Can you tell me a little bit about your understanding of the stigma towards mental illness and what you think it is?
I think every time I've heard people talk about mental illness, they've talked about it in like a negative manner, and then they like make it so that if I feel like if I was like, I don't know, like if I was like mentally ill, like I wouldn't feel comfortable like coming out about it because I feel like they make you feel like it's not like safe for you to open up about. Yeah.
Okay. And so going along with that, right now, like current day, do you think there is still like a very prominent stigma attached to mental health?
I think it is very prominent. I think that like it's going down in the U.S. and like because I grew up like around the world, so in other countries that I've been to, I think it's still a prominent issue there. But I feel like here we're taking baby steps, but steps in the right direction.
Cool. So, would you ever receive services or like seek help if you were dealing with a mental health issue?
I feel like if I was dealing with it on my own and I didn't tell anybody, probably not. Because of what I said earlier, how like it's just such a negative thing in like our society. But I feel like if I had talked to somebody and they like nudged me in the correct direction, then I would seek help for it.
Cool. And last question, what messages do you think society assigns to people battling with mental health issues?
Like I said, I feel like in somewhat of a way, we are like, go do you, go get help and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I feel like in most contexts, it's just still something that we try not to touch base upon, something that we just sweep under the rug, but it shouldn't be something that's swept under the rug.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. Thank you.